Welcome to Restrocast. Today, my guest is Karl Goodhew. He's the CTO at BurgerFi. Karl has had a great, rich experience between retail, hospitality, and now restaurants. Starting with Home Depot, Macy's, JCPenney, working with hotel groups, to now restaurants. I found Karl having that streak of self-taught engineer. That's something that I relate to because the problem-solving skills that I saw and the perspective on restaurant tech was quite refreshing. I'm sure you'll enjoy. So Karl, welcome to Restrocast. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I would like to dive in straight into the journey much before restaurant tech. I can see that your career has been technology all along, and a lot of industries and a lot of products, services. It's quite a wide range to cover. But I would like to start with where it all started. How did you tell me about your early years? Where did it all start?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Georgia, and I was actually a chemistry major for a few years. And I had a really bad semester where I actually made C's, and that was not good for Karl. Karl doesn't get C's. And so I changed my major to management information systems, which is not, it's not computer science. It's a business major. And I started to teach myself how to code and ended up graduating right with the end of 2001, right after 9/11. And all of my cohort basically had their jobs revoked. All their jobs with Accenture or Anderson at the time, they all got rescinded. And I was fortunate enough to already have a job landed with a niche consulting firm in Atlanta that made accounting software for utilities. It's very sexy.
Oh my God, I'm killing you with the thrill, man. Yeah.
So I was coding and implementing against big ERP systems, very niche accounting software that calculates depreciation for utility poles, pipes, and other equipment in the ground. And I started there, traveling the country 4 days a week. A company called PowerPlan, actually. They're still around.
PowerPlan?
PowerPlan. And it was a lot of fun, and I learned the importance of understanding the problem before jumping right in, and also the client relationship.
You were traveling the country as an engineer or as a product person?
As an engineer. So I was, it's a small, at the time I think I was employee number 25, and we would go out in groups of 2 or 3, and there would be a senior and then myself.
So it didn't matter who you were. There were only a handful of people who...
There was only a handful of people, and everyone was working.
And that's why I love startups. I think, at startups, you get exposed to the entire spectrum of the problem and the solution and what happened just because you're there, because, there's nobody else.
Exactly. And the problem is yours to solve. There is no one else to solve the problem.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. But I did realize that this was not what I wanted to do. Traveling 3-4 days a week and working on utility accounting software was not thrilling. And I ended up getting really lucky. The timing was perfect. I started to really get into iPhone development and Android development right as the App Store started. So
this is what year?
2007, 2008. And on the side, as a side gig, I was building apps and got the attention of some folks and ended up at Home Depot building their apps. It was actually their second version of their app. I like to say that I built the original. That's not true. It was the second version, but this was the better one. And no, I got the thrill of building out some features that still exist today. And I loved that job, and hindsight's 2020. When I left there, the stock was $27, and now it's at 300. But other than that, I mean, it was really a great job, and I still
You
know
did that as
folks.
a side gig, or
No,
sorry?
that was full time. So
Oh, side gig landed you.
side gig landed me to do that job because the person who was supposed to present my work wasn't able to go, and they asked me to go and present it. And then you make connections, and so I was fortunate enough to end up being an architect at Home Depot, and introduced a lot of the tech that they use today, like find the product in the store, and my favorite one was the augmented reality feature, which was in the commercials for quite a while actually. So you could hold up your phone and see a
Right.
picture of the door or patio furniture or whatever it is. Yeah, and made a lot of good connections, and those played out later. That I eventually, got phone calls from some folks who worked there and moved around. Ended up at J.C. Penney, working for a gentleman
That's
named.
always great. I must say, I'm a big believer of compounding. I mean, life is compounding anyway. Your
Yeah,
relationships, your
right.
work, everything is compounding, and both are compounding, good as well as bad, right? So one of the best things that happens when you really do good work wherever you are at whatever level you are, is that that reputation and that work compounds and people call you back.
No, they do, and you get to know good people. You understand who's good people and who's maybe avoid over time, and that's not something you can teach. That's something you learn, and I think Home Depot at that time, lots of good people. Probably still are lots of good people, but
So how long were you there?
I was there for almost 3 years. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and I got a phone call, and a lot of this is macroeconomics. I got a phone call. Do you want to move to Miami and be in a startup? They should have just asked, do you want to be on a beach? And we'd bought our house in Atlanta in 2006, right before the bust. And so
Yeah.
it was about time that we could actually put up for rent. We would be okay. So my wife and I packed up and we moved to Miami. I went to go work for a
Nice.
startup, yeah, which was a big change.
And what was the startup about?
Yeah, the startup was called Yellow Pepper, and the Yellow Pepper existed as a SMS banking service in Latin America, and they wanted to pivot, right? They'd been very successful with SMS banking, but they knew that that wasn't going to last forever, and we need something app-based. We need something to sell the banks that's more than SMS. Otherwise, they're going to go build it themselves, or someone else will come and eat our lunch. So we ended up building a platform that uses the payment rails for Visa, MasterCard in Mexico, Ecuador, Colombia, Peru. And you can walk in and use a 4-digit rotating code on your app to pay right there, 4 or 5 digits. And so it's time-based. So basically you open up the app, you say, I want to make a payment, you punch that code in the payment
Correct.
device,
Yeah.
and your payment's taken.
Correct.
This is fantastic for Latin America because of the banking rules,
Yeah.
right? Where the risk shift, and people aren't willing to take the risk of using debit cards and even
Correct.
credit card because the risk.
Even today.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not that great even in 2023.
Right. So great team there. They ended up being acquired by Visa, but I had left a few years prior.
Okay.
Yep. Still, so Yellow Pepper is now part of Visa. They still sell their solutions. Very solid.
They're like a payment pause.
They're a payment service, and they sell to banks. So they're on the back end, right?
Oh.
But they also help the consumer-facing apps with the banking software.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So that was the closest you came to the POS, or
Well, no, I ended up working for Macy's eventually and working on POS software, but we'll get there. There's a couple steps between Startup. My LinkedIn is pretty couple of years, couple of years, couple of years. I ended up being called by Mike Amend, who's now one of the CTOs at Ford Motor Company. He asked me if I would come to Dallas and work for JCPenney, and this was under Marvin Ellison. So after the whole disaster of Johnson, right? It was hey, let's go in, let's try to save JCPenney. And we completely rebuilt the digital side of JCPenney, 100% rebuilt. And I was fortunate enough to work on the mobile apps and loyalty side. And I mean, JCPenney threw everything at that to try and save themselves. It was a lot of fun. And I would say that's probably the one time in my career where, there's a mission, and it was a very clear mission. And it was all about, we got to save, we got to do whatever we can to save this company.
Wow.
Didn't work out. Spoiler alert.
At least we had the mission.
Yeah, but I take Mike Amen, good friend, and I see his passion and his motivation and his willingness to work is probably the best I've ever seen in my career. Yeah, he's a great guy. You should try to get an interview with him if you can. It's in motor, but he's been in retail. And,
Why not? Yeah.
Why not? So JCPenney didn't quite make the cut, and I ended up working for Macy's. Another gentleman from Home Depot, Naveen Krishna, who is now CTO at Napa Genuine Auto. He called me and asked me if I wanted to come to Macy's. And I went over there, and I basically said, I'm not doing what I used to do. I don't want to do another mobile app gig. I've built mobile apps. I know how to do that upside down,
No more retail.
left, right. No more. No. I want to be in retail, but I don't want to build mobile apps. And so he said, well, we're doing this interesting project where we're building a new format store. Ended up being called Market by Macy's. And it's your average Macy's store is 200,000 square feet. And so we built out this model that's 20,000 square feet, so 10%. And I worked with a very creative lady named Rachel Shetman out of New York. She had created Story, which had been acquired by Macy's. And the goal here was Rachel lead a team to go build a new concept, and let's go do it. And we did. And I got to do that as part-time job and then run 4 different teams, development teams.
Okay.
So I had POS and mobile
For this new
stores.
format.
No, for Macy's.
For Macy's.
For Macy's total, which includes Bloomingdale's. The mobile POS, so I got to play with POS software, which includes curbside pickup and all that. Inventory systems for in-store, which includes RFID. And asset protection, which is a very interesting topic in upon itself. Self-checkout. So we built self-checkout at Macy's. Not many folks know that exists, but it's there. And then we just had general development, so 4 different teams there.
Why were you building all this in-house? I mean,
Well, that's a great question, and Naveen left to go be a CTO elsewhere, and I understand their direction changed, and the build versus buy is very secular, and the pendulum shifted. So I believe they're now buying more off the shelf than building it. But for me, it was great because as a software engineer, developer at heart, building stuff is fun. It's different than my role now.
no, I think for me, why I asked you that question specifically is because, I'm biased, of course, but then, even back in the day, I do wonder for an outfit like Macy's or for larger, outfits. I think the processes are standard. Things are like scale is the problem, speed is
Scale
the
is the
problem,
problem,
accuracy
yep.
is the problem, security is the problem. You're not really too dynamic, or agile when it comes to your processes or your structure. Built for such structures sounds like too much reinventing the wheel. I mean, for nothing.
Well, I mean, we had agile teams. We had really good software development. A great great leadership in the software development space. I think there is a fundamental question there. Can you move quicker if you buy something off the shelf? But unless you've been in Macy's or Home Depot,
Is it only about moving quicker? But I mean, it may not be only about moving quicker. That's true. But then I believe that when you take a product off the shelf, that product is also growing. So market movements. You're running your own business. Your business is retail, restaurant, hospitality, or something, right? There are going to be trends and the shifts and the modules and the workflows and the features which you will lose sight of, and one day you will need it, and somebody else has built it.
Yeah, I think that's one view. I think the other view is that the business believes that their way of operating is unique and they have to do it their way. Otherwise, it's not what we want and we're not going to be successful.
Yeah, but that's a problem, no?
That's a problem everywhere. That's a problem everywhere. But we always had that conversation that Macy's is no more unique than Home Depot or JCPenney in that you're selling things off a shelf in a retail setting. There are definitely intricacies and there are definitely examples where, no, you are unique.
Yeah.
But I would say that with the scale of Macy's, with the scale of Home Depot, there are very few products that you can buy off the shelf and just plug in and go.
Really?
However, I will say with cloud development and the ability to scale technically in terms of number of servers and databases, that has changed the game.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
But in the old days, you would, as a startup, say, I have this new product for Home Depot, let me pitch
I
it.
hear you.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's never going to work.
No, I think, and startups, I hear you there, absolutely. I think startups also need a maturity curve because, I can tell you at Restrocast back in 2012 when we started, an year into it, somebody asked me, "Oh, so you can power Taco Bell, right?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So why are they not using you? I said, "We don't have time to sell to them." He said, "So you mean your product is good enough to serve them tomorrow?" I said, "Absolutely." And cut to 2019, we signed our first Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And it took us 6 months to actually go live. And I was like, oh damn! Like after 7 years, there is 6 months of work to be done before we go live. In 2012, I legit believed that it's Taco Bell's mistake that they're not buying us. I am ready.
Yeah.
So I think with startups, it's also the scale pieces. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
It's a blind spot.
And you have to have been in those enterprises to understand how they work,
True.
how the sales process is built in a way to really gate those startups from coming in the door even. There's procurement teams. There's analysis done on cost of software.
Sure.
The CTO has already said, no, I don't want any more vendors. Everything is built as a mountain that is very hard to scale as a startup trying to get a product into a major Fortune 500 company. It's very hard.
No, absolutely, and I can only appreciate over my own journey that it's hard for a reason. There are stakes, and this is something that I not only have been telling ourselves as a company, but I've been preaching to a lot of fellow entrepreneurs who are at different stages where I'm like, hey, you know what? Don't curse that CIO or CTO or somebody. The guy, there are stakes, and he's looking at you with suspicion. Have you looked at yourself? I look at you with suspicion. I look at myself with suspicion. It's okay.
Right.
Instead of pushing that back, embrace it.
Right.
Hear the person out. There are stakes. Stakes are real. Nobody got fired to buy an IBM. It's a real thing. It's fair. It's not unfair. You want your shot.
Right.
But you need to embrace the fact that there are stakes, and you need to answer those questions way before. If somebody's asking you those questions, too late.
Yep. No, absolutely. And the other thing too is you've got to make sure you're priced correctly. If you come in too cheap, no one believes that you're
Oh
real.
yeah, of course, 100%.
If you're too expensive, you're not getting in the door. You have to be at that sweet spot and leave room for knowing that procurement is going to beat you up.
I think it's funny you said that, right? Because with startups, the oversimplification of this problem is being cheap.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're paying Oracle XYZ, I'll do it at 1/10 the cost. I'm like, why? And how will you do it at one tenth the cost? Why will somebody buy you at one tenth the cost?
Yeah, and also to rip out Oracle and put in a startup, there's cost associated with that.
100%.
So maybe don't go after Oracle, or maybe do.
Maybe do, but I think taking care of these nuances is what I'm just
Yes. Yeah.
pointing at. I think
Right.
there are startups that are disrupting Oracles and the Ciscos all the time, but they
Definitely.
are
Definitely.
but they do it, and you see a lot of you know maturity in the system.
Yep.
They may be new age, but they're not new.
Correct. Yes. Yes. And invariably they grow, and then they become another Oracle or Salesforce or whoever.
That's a rite of passage. Right? I mean, that's exactly what they want to be.
I know. I know. They want to be that gorilla who can't be
Yeah,
displaced.
they're like absolutely. They're like, please make me something that people curse. These guys don't move.
Yep. Yep.
No, but what what after Macy's?
Yeah, so we opened that store in Southlake, Texas. I think it was like March 7th or March 10th, 2020. And then
Okay, right.
all hell broke loose.
2 minutes of silence.
Yes, yes. So I ended up staying there for a little while longer, working on those other systems, and it was a lot of fun. But I had already done a lot of that work, and I wanted to do something different. And one of the gentlemen from Yellow Pepper on the really the SPAC side, so of BurgerFi. BurgerFi was a SPAC that acquired a private company, BurgerFi, and he called me and asked me if I wanted to do more high-level CTO work, and so I was like, yeah, this sounds good. So I live in Atlanta. The company's based out of Fort Lauderdale, and I'm CTO at BurgerFi and Anthony's Coal Fire Pizza, who we acquired November 21.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we have 120 BurgerFis and 60 pizza joints, casual. Yeah.
Great. Before I jump into the darker side of the restaurant business, in your while you were researching, I saw that you ran a tech services company for a while. Was that like something that you ran separately, or?
My own thing? Yeah, no, that was a on the side gig. It was really building software, whatever I could find. I built some software for managing dental X-rays. I built software for measuring the distance between, I don't even remember what it was, but in a lab, bacteria or something on a slide.
Why were you doing all this?
Because it was opportunistic, and it was something to do, and broaden my scope of work, and pay some bills.
So that was happening on the side while you were working
Yeah,
at
I haven't done
Home
that in a while. Yeah, so I was, it was very opportunistic as it came across.
And you code, I'm assuming.
I code self-taught, so a lot of people look at my code and laugh, but it generally works. I've run coding teams, which has helped me a lot in understanding what good code looks like. And then me understanding that I'm better at helping project manage and making sure we hit schedules than me coding. It's not good for anyone anymore. But no, Java is probably my number one language that I code in now. But I do a lot of, what I call hacky, scrappy stuff. Oh, we need to know competitor pricing, right? Okay, I'll build a quick scraping tool and put it in the cloud, and away we go.
That's interesting. So, I saw hospitality in between as well.
I was very briefly at a hotel company called Omni Hotels, about 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did a little bit of work on building a new website for them, and but I didn't stay long. Not that there was anything wrong with Omni. It was just,
Too slow?
It wasn't for me.
Too slow, or?
Well, no, without going and
I find hotels too slow. I'm just saying. And
Well,
I
I
have
think-
managed a hotel. My family had a hotel.
Okay, so I think the problem with Omni Hotels, and I think it's a great company, But you've got to look at the ownership. He made all of his money in oil and real estate. Digital wasn't really
Sure.
top of mind.
Got it.
So it was an uphill battle from the beginning.
Tech was just a utility or a...
Well, if someone wants to stay at an Omni hotel, they'll just come to the website and they'll book it.
Got it. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. No.
Why
No,
do you need anything else?
yeah. No, I think hotels are slow because I think one of the biggest reasons why hotels are slow is because that like their opportunity or their problems lie in this one building,
Yeah.
right? So you like not a lot can go wrong with it. You're always contained. I mean, of course, there's a scope of innovation everywhere.
Right.
But I find hotels as a problem so contained in that building in that one property one at a time that hotels move slow. That's been my
I do draw a lot of similarities between hotels and restaurants, though. The inventory expires at the end of the day.
not much in hotels. I mean, even in hotels, inventory expires in the restaurant.
That's what I mean, right? So
Yeah.
it's very similar in that you've got to manage that inventory. You've got to work out the right pricing to get the right number of people in the door, and there's a lot of the same problems.
Yeah, I mean, I still believe that hotel is like the for the restaurant as well. Audience is captive. You have a certain percentage payload. You know that if 100 people have checked in, 30 are going to eat here anyway. Don't worry. So hotels are like I find them like much more chill. Restaurants
Yeah.
are always on fire. They're like every day is a new day, literally. And
I
you
think
have
that's
to...
fair. I think that's very fair. Yeah. Although I still come back to hotels, at least when I was there, the pricing mechanisms were very outdated. Hey, this is
No, I think, yeah, I mean, for the hotel rooms,
yes.
hotel industry also uses competitive, intelligence on pricing a lot. I don't know how tech forward that is, but
Yeah.
industry has figured
Yeah, it's self-fulfilling, right?
yeah,
It's right. Oh, they're at 200. We got to be at 200. Oh, they're at 200. We got to be at
true
200.
that. Yeah, that's a very guesswork AI.
Right, right. Exactly. Yeah.
No, so BurgerFi,
Yes,
what's
BurgerFi.
been what's how's the restaurant industry treating you?
Well, personally, they've welcomed me, which is nice because I haven't been stabbed in the back yet, so I actually like it. I think it's, I haven't, I don't have to wear a bulletproof vest anywhere or anything like that. So, no, I think that the restaurant industry is very welcoming to outsiders. I thought it might be a little bit like, oh, you didn't come up from the operations side, like, oh, we don't trust you. And it hasn't been like that at all. They're very receptive to new ideas, and I'm speaking generally, but I found that everyone that I've worked with or spoken with, they are welcoming of new ideas, and maybe we should look at it a little different way.
That's also the timing, no? You came in post-COVID. I think
Yes, I
technology
did.
was already at the forefront.
Yes, that's correct. In that off-premise, OLO, online ordering, it already happened.
Correct.
But yeah, so that there is a dynamic shift that I wasn't there for. I completely agree. But I think in my mind, I had, ooh, a chef's going to want to do it this way, or an operator's going to say I've done it this way for 30 years, because that's how retail is a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So I guess everyone became more used to technology and receptive and understanding that we gotta change.
So how did the BurgerFi journey started? Like, what did you see there, or was it all perfect when you entered?
Yeah, everything was perfect. No changes needed at all. So that was fantastic.
I thought so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So BurgerFi was a family-run company for about 11 years, and I mean, no disrespect to the folks who were there prior. I think that they were making the best decision for them at that time, and I can't put on their glasses and understand what they were seeing. But a lot of the decisions made were just that. They were, what do we need to do right now? Which means that when I came in, we had 4 different POS.
Wow.
We didn't really have a...
And how large was the estate? How many stores?
Let's see. So we're now at 120
No,
stores.
no, yeah. When you entered.
When we entered, it was about the same. It
Oh,
was a
okay.
little bit smaller,
Okay, you
but
already okay.
not yeah. But we've opened a lot of corporate since I joined. I think we've opened 12 corporate stores. And then the franchise side is where we're focused on growth right now.
So yeah, 4 different POS systems at 120
Four
stores.
different POS systems, which makes data collection a challenge. We were able to get rid of one completely, and then we used an aggregation tool, Mirrors, for our BI tool, which then feeds through to our GL, ERP, everything else. So a lot of the systems were built for a not mom and pop, but a family-run company,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So we now have a ERP that finance can use, automated invoice scanning, a lot of things that really help the business run. It took a while to get there. A lot of the menus have been redone. I was there during the massive supply chain issues, right, where everything went through the roof. So that was a lot of, I wouldn't say fun. From a technology perspective, it meant that we had to understand what are our competitors doing, what are our costs. We didn't have visibility to that, and that meant we had to move quickly and make those changes in pricing, which we've seen. Big increases in pricing over the last 2 years.
Yep.
I
Still
think
going, still going
everyone.
on.
We revisit it very frequently. I think we're moving towards more dynamic pricing, more store level pricing based off of competitors nearby, not broad sweeping increases.
When you say dynamic pricing, you mean dynamic through the day, or?
Both.
Oh wow.
Both that and dynamically for that store fairly frequently, right? Not necessarily during the day. We don't have a breakfast, but at our airport locations, and lunch and dinner is the same menu. So we drive lunch through promotions, loyalty versus a different pricing structure. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that now it's one POS system. Or
We're
you're
not
still?
quite there. We're
Oh
not
wow.
quite there. It's
Okay.
still a journey. It's very, it's capital intensive to rip out a POS.
Sure.
And then when we acquired Anthony's, they're on a completely different POS.
Correct.
So, that's something that we evaluate. I think with my background being in payments and POS are now, often people get confused because they're so intertwined.
Correct.
And I think that's the opportunity that we're looking at. How do we maximize our commodity, which is the payment space, to make sure that our POS is the right POS?
Can you double click on that?
Yeah. So to me, payments are commodities, right? As long you have to be up, you have to take payment, you have to take Apple Pay, you have to take EMV. You check those boxes. Okay, what's your value add? You can pay at table. Okay, you can scan QR and pay. All right, most everyone's got that now. So payments to me, as long as you're up and you've got a track record of being up, the cost is the cost. The cost is the driving factor at that point. So then the question is, can you get your payments to pay for your POS hardware? And can you do it in such a way that you're not locked in? And if you can solve both of those things, now you've got the flexibility and the cost.
And
side.
that's a brilliant point, because I believe that for whatever good reasons over past couple, in fact decades, POS software companies, and I'm talking about like a restaurant POS, that is supposed to solve so much in the workflow, in the menu, and whatnot. They're aligning with the payment system, locking companies down in
Right.
payments,
Right.
has actually reduced their incentive to go in the deeper, darker corners of that workflow. Right, because cash till is operating, they're continuously ringing in. It doesn't matter whether they got that one workflow in or not. It doesn't matter whether that menu was feasible or versatile or rich, for a marketplace. So I think that payments and the software POS systems are supposed to be two different problems. They cannot be one. They need to work together.
I completely agree. Unfortunately, the industry is consolidated around this verticalization of the POS and payment space, which then results, like you said, you've got to look at the feature set of a particular POS, and you better bet on it because you're locked in for some amount of time that you can't make changes.
I mean, you're logged in even without a contract. I personally feel that, especially like, any restaurant chain of a certain minimum size, you're logged in anyway,
Yeah, there's
right?
capital expenditure, there's
I mean, there's
effort, there's
yeah,
interfaces, there's
correct,
integrations.
exactly.
Yeah,
So you're
absolutely.
already logged in. I don't need a contract for that. I mean, I can tell you that, some of my customers cannot go out even if I screw twice, just because they're logged in, because there's so much, the stakes are high. There's so much that has gone in. So I think payments is probably the lowest denominator
Yep,
in that.
I agree, 100%. And what it does is if you're locked in on the payment side, now it makes it difficult to pick a third-party kiosk, drive-through,
Yeah.
menu board, right? Now you're really limited in your ability to innovate in the space. So I don't like being vertically locked in. Um, I know some folks are probably listening to this who are vendors today going, uh-oh. But I think that it's in the best interest of the restaurant company to maintain separate.
No, I think Carl, I can tell you that I am we are a POS. We started as a POS company actually back in the day, right?
Right.
But all my biases aside, the fact is that I was a restaurateur 12 years back.
Mm-hmm.
This product was earlier built for my restaurant.
Yep.
We currently operate in 55 countries.
Right.
From that vantage point, we see the impact of where payments are aligned with the POS in geographies where payments are not aligned with the POS.
Right.
For me, I think I'm really vocal about it with our competitors as well. That guys, you can compete on 20,000 other things. Like the payment piece, my point on the payment is that your incentive is misplaced. You're locking somebody down on the hardware, on the payment, on the contract. You're making your money on that transaction, percentage. It's a no-go because that takes away the incentive from a software company to really solve a deep dark problem. You don't need that, and that is exactly why I feel that restaurant tech in general is super fragmented. It's broken, not because products are bad. They're individual products which solve the problems nicely, beautiful products, multiple of them, but they're broken. Like the entire spectrum is so fragmented that you're trying to buy like 12 or 13 products and then try to make them talk to each other seamlessly, and then you're complaining that they don't talk to each other. Of course they don't.
Right.
What's been your experience with that?
I completely agree, and I have to take a step back and say I've only had a U.S.-centric view of technology. I understand there's issues like fiscal in foreign countries where, for those who don't know, you have to, by government rule, maintain a log of every transaction in a.
And every country has a different one.
Everyone has a different one, and it has to be unmutable or non-mutable, and it has to abide by all these different rules and regulations. And you've got 55 countries, so you probably got 54 different rules.
Oh, don't ask. I mean, we have seen such bizarre fiscal integrations.
Yep.
Where we asked the guy that, all right, so how does that work? And when he explained, we were like, what?
Why?
And it wasn't even about how are we going to do that. We were like, who designed the system? Like, what is your government?
A bunch of legislators.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see Mexico, right? They have a stamping. Every time you hit print check, an API call hits a government server, there is a invoice ID generated on the fly. It comes back. It needs to be stamped on that bill, and that's when you print the bill. And I'm like, what?
Well, let's hope there's no latency there.
Yeah, I mean, problems are umpteen. Then Turkey, they have logged the payment terminals. So if you're using a Verifone machine or Ingenico machine, or that needs to be integrated with the government server, because the taxation, they need to get the the number of the tax. Thailand, Government has issued every business a certain series of invoice numbers,
Oh.
right? And your invoices have to be with that suffix, that prefix, and that series. And
Yeah,
I can
no,
go on.
yeah. I think that, yeah, that's not my worldview. I'm very US centric, which is great from that I don't have to worry about that. But I do agree with you. It's very fragmented. There's a million solutions out there, but I don't think that's necessarily unique to the restaurant space. There's a million solutions in retail. There's a million solutions in any industry. It's just that here it seems that there's some big players that are consolidating and becoming a little monopolistic. I hate to say that out loud, in some areas, and that drowns out a lot of the innovation and the smaller players.
I think if I take a step back from when I said fragmented, even in the US, I actually mean that it's a single problem statement, and it has been chopped into 12 hyper specialized pieces. And some of those problems are, like, in fact, most of those problems are so intertwined
Right,
that while the specialized solution in isolation looks brilliant,
right.
but it's not operating in isolation.
Well, yes, but then you look at companies like Uber, Amazon, Google, they can't solve for every iteration or every scenario inside the restaurant space. Like Uber doesn't have a great pizza builder, right?
Yeah.
And they've got cash to throw at it all day, right? Amazon is trying to understand the restaurant space, and they don't, it's
Yeah, they won't get it. I hate to say that, but I don't think they'll get it.
there's a lot of smart people at Amazon.
It doesn't matter. I truly think that Google is a great company, and if a great company like Google can do Google Plus, I don't think the problem is smartness. They suck at social. Google's APIs suck. Like for example, all Google understands is they collect data, process it, give it back to you. If Google had to accept data from you, like a two-way, their APIs suck, like all over.
I think that's a little short-sighted. I'm sorry. So I know a lot of Google engineers too. They're very smart. To your point, being smart doesn't mean making good
No,
decisions.
I'm talking about the
But
company's DNA.
the system capabilities that they have though are pretty significant. They're building out a retail
No, no, don't get me
platform.
wrong. I think that probably might have come across as wrong. I mean that companies have a DNA, and Apple does not fall far away from the tree.
Yep.
So I'm talking about the organizational DNA, and I'm not talking
Okay,
about the
understood.
smartness of the people inside.
Right, right.
So what I'm saying is that super smart people at Amazon are going to make crazy strides, and they will work in retail in their area, in e-commerce and marketplaces,
Right.
and they do that all the time. They did AWS. I mean,
Right.
that's an adjacent, word. Or, I mean, that's a tangential word, not even adjacent. What I mean is that organizations who have a certain DNA, Uber Eats failed at so many places in the world, while they actually disrupted logistics for real. They actually disrupted,
Yeah.
cabs.
I agree. I look at it this way. So Amazon has a very customer-centric view of the world. How do we solve a customer problem? And that customer might be the business, right? Whereas I think that Google takes more of a business-centric view of the world, and how do we solve a business problem that may not always be in the best interest of the customer. This is my view of the world.
Yeah,
For
no,
what it's worth.
interesting. No, but I think for me the fragmentation is also about that. When a company is not, so for example, a lot of POS companies suck at back of the house. There are a lot of back of the house companies who,
Sure.
were not able to do, a lot of other things in that equation.
Right.
Be it labor management, or they had
Absolutely.
to finally acquire. And I meant the DNA, from that
Oh,
perspective.
understood. Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And I think you have to decide up front, are you going to do a best in breed, which means you have to have a fragmented tech stack of best inventory system, best labor scheduling system, best POS, or are you going to accept that it's not going to be fantastic across the board and pick one of those solutions that claims to be able to do everything? Understanding it's not going to quite be able to do everything in every area. That's the decision you got to make. And how complicated it is, the costs, your budget that you have. do you want to focus on operations and selling food, or do you want to focus on systems? I think that there's a lot of questions in there that are very complex, and it's more about the business structure and do you have the time and money, resources, effort, willingness to go down that path. Yeah, but I do agree it is fragmented in the systems world, and we choose to do best in class where possible, or if we're budget constrained, what's the best that we can get for that budget, right? And yes, it results in a very fragmented tech stack, but we consolidate across brands wherever possible.
On the new age tech, we are also talking about Startup Alley at
Yep.
More Tech.
Yep.
On the new age tech, there's a lot of AI that is flying around.
Yep.
Voice AI is, one of my favorite. Also because my bias is I believe that visual interfaces will go lesser and lesser in the world in general, not only in restaurant
Yeah,
space,
sure,
but
sure.
voice is easier.
Right.
I read that you guys are doing something around voice ordering, well, voice AI.
So all 60 of our pizza restaurants, Anthony's, that you're greeted by a voice AI when you place your order, and the majority of phone orders do get placed through that AI system.
So what's your current experience with voice AI? And I'm talking about challenges, the
Yeah.
opportunity, accuracy.
Yep.
What's
So
happening there?
we partner with Converse now, and they're fantastic partners in that we work with them on challenges, and there have been plenty, usually around the way that people say things or different terms for what we call one thing. So
Give an example.
pepperoni, right? I call it pepperoni. Someone else may call them pepperoni cups, or salami, or like it's not quite what you expect, and you don't know that until you listen to thousands of calls. So they go through that training procedure and they train the model, and that solves a lot of that. The issue then is accents. Spanish speaking is a bit of a problem, and so we have backup, which is a human, right? A human ends up taking the call. If someone, we have keywords we listen to for frustration, and we immediately transfer the call.
So what's happening? What's the accuracy?
It's the accuracy is great when the system is able to understand you. There's no accent issues or anything like that. I would say that there are a good percentage of the population that still struggle with it, and we're working through that, and that'll come over time.
But is it when you said accents and you were talking about like people characterizing a certain thing or naming it differently?
There's another segment of the population, and that's those that don't want to talk to a robot. They just human representative.
What are those calls like?
No, the problem with those calls is that they've worked out, the customer has worked out how to get through to a human right away.
Okay.
So they bypass the system, and that's something that we have to make a business decision on, right? Because the benefit for us is, I don't want to beat up customers, right? But if the customer uses the phone AI to order, or better yet, through our website, they are placing an order that we know will be made. We know we received the order correctly, right? If they get through to a person, that person is now not able to offer customer service and hospitality to someone that's in the store. So that's taking away from another customer's experience. And I want to divert those hours of hospitality to real interaction at the table or at pickup, so that you come back a second or third time, not during an order taking process. There's not much business value add there.
But is the accent problem or the data and training model, etc., is it geography based? For example, let's say southern, if your stores are concentrated over there, and I'm assuming that because it's 120 stores.
We're majority Florida, half Florida, and then scattered East Coast, all the way Denver, Alaska, right?
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
okay, you're dealing with quite a spread.
quite a spread, but I would say that South Florida in particular is a little bit of a challenge with Hispanic
Yeah,
population,
yeah,
right?
got it.
But we're going to work through that, right? If we had unlimited resources, we would do a Spanish model. Instead,
Isn't it there yet?
no, we for Spanish we take them through to a Spanish-speaking colleague.
Got it.
Yep.
Got
Yep.
it. Interesting. I think that voice AI, is something that I sincerely hope that it's going to improve for everyone over time. It's not really about like one player. I think
Yeah.
um, uh, the kind of collective.
Yeah, and as a customer, I feel like there's some companies that abuse it. So I'm going to call it AT&T. They will make it impossible to get through to someone. I think that in the restaurant space, in particular hospitality, that shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be, if we can help you right now, we will help you. If you need assistance, we'll gladly get you that. It shouldn't be a maze. It shouldn't be a challenge to get through to someone. But at the same time, we would like you to try it and see if you can get through the process. It's really a great process. We just want you to try it just once.
What are the fads in technology? What are the things that the CTO cringes when you hear that? You're like, oh, come on, man, don't talk about this. I'm tired.
So we tested robots in one of our stores, and there were 3 robots on the floor yesterday, and all I heard were people complaining, why is it here? Why does it keep moving into my booth? Why is it here? I think that robots, they've got a long way to come. I think that back of house robots make perfect sense. I think front of house robots need to come down significantly in price and add more features.
You mean back of the house robots,
Like
cooking,
cooking,
automated fryers,
automatic fryers, automatic burger flippers, pizza makers, things like that. We're not there yet, and the reason for that is a lot of these automated processes require frozen foods because it's consistent.
Sure.
And we don't have that. Yeah. All of our food is fresh in the pizza side, and then on the burger side, all of our meat is, it's not frozen meat.
What did you use robots for?
We use robots in the front of house for delivering food
To the table?
to the table.
And how did it go?
It was fine. I mean, it worked, but when you do the math and play it out, the math doesn't make sense. It's pretty expensive, and then the ROI, you can't remove labor from the store.
Correct.
So it's diverting labor a little bit, but it's not resulting in enough to offset the significant cost. And then also there were some technical challenges, especially in Florida, a lot of sunlight, and that messed with the camera system and shadows and things like that. It started to detect, there's something there. No, it's just sunny, right? So
I think
those kind of challenges.
Yeah, I think there's just an evolution problem there.
Yeah,
I think
and
robots
they'll
have
get
to-
through that. They'll get through that. But the staff liked it. The kids loved it. I think it's a good thing to play with. See if it works for you.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's there yet.
Yeah, no, I think you've crushed it fully by saying that it's just kids love it and, and that's all.
Yeah. Oops. No, I don't know. So I said QR codes. Do I think that QR codes are going to be around in 5 years? Or what's?
That's awesome. Please go on. Tell me.
So QR codes have gone through this iteration of, they were really big maybe 5-10 years ago. Then they disappeared altogether. And it was all to do with the legality. Like someone owned the patent on QR codes and sued everyone about it, right? So I know Macy's got sued, JCPenney got sued, because if you printed a QR code on paper, there was this company that had the patent and they would go after you.
Wow.
And so
I didn't know that.
everyone
Wow.
backed off of it. And then I guess something happened. I guess legally something happened with that patent, and they kind of flourished again.
That's actually quite surprising because do you know who had that patent? Or like which?
I don't
Like
remember.
person in which country?
It was in the U.S., but
Oh wow, because China is probably pre-COVID. China probably was the largest user of QR codes. WeChat.
oh yeah,
China
yeah,
was like I went to China like back in 2016, 17. The country had QR codes plastered all over the country for 20 reasons, right?
right, right,
And I was like, wow, these guys really love QR.
yeah,
I mean, fast forward COVID, the
right,
world got plastered with it.
yeah. I I struggle with it because I see them used in stupid ways, like on the back of a bus or something. Who's going to scan a QR code as the bus is driving by? I don't know. But in the restaurant space, I feel like, to your point, voice I won't need to scan a QR code. Contextually, the phone knows where I am. They know that I'm in a restaurant. They know that I'm in your restaurant. I should be able to just open up Safari or whatever, and it should just show me the menu. Contextually, it makes sense.
Maybe an auto Wi-Fi
Yeah,
loader.
yeah, something like that. There shouldn't necessarily be that human interaction of, oh, I got to go to the camera app, I got to scan something, and I got to click a button. I think we can get better than that. Um, I don't know what that replacement technology is, by the way, but I agree it's going to get there. What I am happy to see is that all these different flavors of QR have kind of gone away. Like Microsoft had a version, and it was almost like, oh, what app do I need to download
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
That's all gone away, which I'm glad. Um,
I think
so
mobile
we'll see.
cameras have also bridged that gap, actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely,
The readers
definitely.
are. No, but I think I again, as a tech company, though we do those solutions, I hate digital menus. I mean,
They're hard to read. They do
yeah.
help with pricing,
No,
dynamic.
I mean the utility is real, but the
Right,
customer experience is bad, right?
right.
Because
The
most
customer
of the
experience
times
bad.
it's not even optimized for your phone,
Correct.
and you're struggling with scrolling too much, even to
Yeah.
find things. Even if you know that menu, it's still a struggle. If I don't know the menu, it's a struggle of a different order.
Right, right. I think the funniest one I saw was where I was at a bar, and it was scan the QR code to order your drink.
It through a PDF.
Yeah, well, no, it threw actually a system for ordering, but it was just like pre-made cocktails, and it's like, well, I know you got a full bar. Like, how do I get my particular cocktail? Oh, I got to talk to someone. Well, what's the point?
I think the best is that, and I think a lot of five-star hotels across the world got it. I don't know why, probably COVID and they didn't have time.
Right.
And they continue to do that. I will scan it in like some random part of the world, and it's gonna open a Google Drive PDF link.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm talking about
Now you're
I'm talking about good, like I'm talking about Starwoods and I'm
yeah.
talking about Marriott's,
Right.
and I'm like, whoa, guys, you really need to like buck up. Like this is bad. Like you at least give me a Marriott link or some I don't even remember what hotel was that, but multiple hotels.
Yeah. No, that's terrible. You shouldn't link to a PDF.
Yeah,
Never,
that's a
ever,
Google
ever.
Drive. It was a Google Drive
Oh,
link.
Google Drive, even better. Yeah, yeah.
Carl, this was a great conversation.
Thank you. Yeah.
On the ending remarks, would love to know, you're at Motec. This is your first time at a restaurant tech conference. You told me this.
Yep.
You're right at the start. Where do you see restaurant tech is going? What would you like to see at conferences like Motec? Uh, what did you um, what were you looking forward to?
Well, I think that Murtech has, just from, I landed yesterday at 3:30 and I got to walk the floor and see what was there. I think that from a vendor perspective, it covers the gamut in terms of technology. I think there's a gap in the partners not being there. So the DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber, ASAPs of the world, which is interesting because they account for such a large portion of revenue.
Wow, interesting. They're
And
not
I don't
there.
get to beat them up on how crappy their APIs are. I think that there's probably more real-time data exchange that needs to happen. I think that I understand there's a new data format that's being proposed, that's being, from
By RTN?
RTN.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a huge step forward. I want to see those DSPs, I want to see the big online players adopt that. Otherwise, we need it adopted, right? But I need real-time information. I need to know where drivers are. I need to know where when food's got to be ready. I need to know about refunds. I need to know about guest complaints. I think as an industry, we need to push for the walled garden to be taken down. But it's something that you've got to be careful about because those DSPs, they own the relationship right now, and you can't do it all at once.
Yeah, and also I think this is something that I see around the world, not only here. I think all the DSPs, all the marketplaces, they were so focused on getting the end consumer and holding the end consumer,
Right.
and their worldview became so much that, hey, I am the guy who owns or has the customer, so you listen to me.
Right.
The negative side of that is that across the world DSPs ended up ignoring what restaurant may need from them,
Right.
be it APIs, be it data, be it consistency. For example, like, why is there no standard in APIs for DSPs around the world? There are like handful. There, like, we are integrated with 15 of them, in multiple geographies, and I can tell you the struggle is
Oh, I'm
almost
sure.
similar everywhere because everybody is different.
Right.
And the problem at the core is not that I mean, I actually call it's not bad intent. It's lack of intent. I don't even find it. They're like, most of the times you had these conversations with them where they're like, but why do I need to do that? So, because that restaurant is your customer, and that end consumer is that restaurant's customer, and that restaurant is my customer. And if we don't work together, this guy gets screwed, and that guy gets screwed, and you get screwed. Like, what part of this equation is not clear to you?
Right.
They're like, oh, I didn't think like that. I'm like, what is the way you think generally?
Yeah. I completely agree, and it's a delicate balance because they do own so much of the marketplace and so much revenue flowing through their systems that you don't want to be on their bad side either.
I don't think you can be as well. You shouldn't be. I mean, I personally am not a believer of debate on whether a brand should get all the orders directly or versus marketplace.
Yeah.
I think it's the reality is going to be
It's going to
marketplace
be a
side.
mix, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because consumer needs that comfort.
Right.
I don't want to learn your app. I mean, I may love you as a brand,
No.
but that's not good. It's not going to be my first port of call.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. So I don't know if I answered your question there, but I think that Murtec seems like a lot of good sessions.
I mean, this question is actually, it has nothing to do with Mertech.
Okay.
It's really, this question is really, for me, just because we are here.
Right, right. No, I think that technology as a whole, it's going to be extremely interesting over the next 24 months, what happens with the AI models. I envision a future where it's not going to be for everyone, but the systems are going to know Karl always gets pizza on Fridays. And he usually rotates through these 3 different restaurants. Hey, Karl, it's Friday, it's 3 o'clock. Do you want me to order that Pizza Hut with the cheese sticks? And oh, by the way, your loyalty program is going to throw in a free medium. Do you want that to use that coupon? I think we'll eventually get there. The question is, who's going to lead that charge? Who's going to take advantage of it? And will customers be receptive to it?
Damn, that's scary. I'll tell you why. Not because it's intrusive. I'll tell you it's scary because the last release of dope that you had by saying, hey, I am feeling hedonistic today, I'm gonna order pizza, and now that dope is taken away from you. So you're gonna find that dope in social media, and probably you're doing more reels and TikTok. So God bless the world. I think with AI, dope is going to get depleted, and people will actually spend that time on social media. That's how.
Let's hope they're productive. I'm going to take a different worldview and say maybe they're going to be productive instead. Write a book instead of ordering pizza. Maybe.
Oh, come on! Oh, come on! That was the most optimistic thing somebody has ever said to me. On that note, Carl, this is great. Thank you for doing
sir.
this. Enjoyed this conversation.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right.